They just wanted freedom and a place whereby they could live and have a place to call their own.
The history of Black migration from the U.S. to Canada is a story of perseverance. It's about struggle, courage, and triumphs. It's about the drive to build a better life. The founding of Willow Grove and Amber Valley are two of those stories.
Willow Grove is one of the most beautiful places that nobody knows about. Nobody really understands the fact that Willow Grove was a community that Loyalists settled there.
In 1815, 371 Black refugee Loyalists arrived in New Brunswick aboard the HMS Regulus. The formerly enslaved Americans had been offered their freedom and land in exchange for supporting the British in the War of 1812. But their journey to a better life proved an uphill battle, starting with getting the land they had been promised.
The land was surveyed out in 50-acre lots. The Black refugees were supposed to pay for the survey, which was not something that others had to do. And they were only given licenses of occupation. They weren't given the grants outright. Most white grantees were given between 100 and 200 acres per grant. So the land itself was not really enough to maintain a farm, and so the Black Loyalists were then really required to head into the city to find work.
The New Canadians fought for their rights and persevered to build Willow Grove.
But at least they got a foothold on Willow Grove and did their very best to be able to develop a community. A strong group of people struggled, and the rest of the people that came along after, the doors had already been opened. The communities had already been built by people who hung on and hung on and hung on until they too became successful.
Well, Amber Valley was the biggest Black settlement in Western Canada. They said at one time there was up to 300 people, Black people who lived in Amber Valley.
The history of Amber Valley dates back to around 1910. While the oppressive Jim Crow laws took hold in the American South, Canada was putting the call out for pioneers to settle land in the last best West. In pursuit of a better life, 30 Black families from mostly Oklahoma struck out for northern Alberta.
The biggest challenge was clearing land. They had to do that even to build a home. But they had to do that land clearing by hand. There was no machinery. And the neighbors all helped one another. When one got their 10 acres cleared, then they went and helped the other one clear his 10 acres. And that way they were able to file for the quarter section. The determination those people had, to my way of thinking, it's unreal. And it was so doggone cold in the winters. But yet they survived.
Over time, the Amber Valley community flourished. And while residents still experienced some discrimination, there are stories of how they were welcomed.
A lot of the white communities had to pass through Pine Creek, Amber Valley, in order to get to their area. But when it was cold in the winter, they opened their houses up to let them warm up, or some of them even overnighted so they could have the horses fed and whatnot. They were welcomed, and they welcomed everybody into their homes.
Eventually, young people moved to the cities to find greater opportunities.
The numbers of people that went on to make incredible contributions to life in the province of Alberta, in the country that we now call Canada, and in the world is really astonishing. That, I think, is really significant because it speaks to the determination, the perseverance, the incredible resilience of the people.
Canada Post is honored to pay tribute to these two historic settlements and the people who built them.
The stamp represents ordinary people back in that timeline. And it's just one of the biggest blessings that ever happened.
I just want to thank and honor every single person who has worked hard to keep those archives, to store them in their homes, to make sure they're safe, and to preserve them for future generations.
I'm just very, very grateful to have Canada as my home.